There's a book called The Five Love Languages, and basically, it talks about how people have different ways of receiving and giving love. So, your love language is the way that you communicate your love for others, and also the way that you feel appreciated and you feel loved in relationships. And the book argues that there are different modalities or languages that people use when they're expressing their love and when they're receiving love. And the five love languages, according to this book, are quality time. So, for example, spending time together, like really connecting, either socially, intellectually, romantically, whatever that might look like for you. So, quality time. The other one, the obvious one that I think a lot of people might be familiar with, is gifts. So, getting gifts for one another, maybe like, you're going to another country and you pick up some souvenirs for your loved ones because you want them to know that you're thinking about them. That's a gift love language. Another one is acts of service. So maybe there's a little bit of overlap with gifts because sometimes an act of service is a gift, but the difference is that an act of service is something that could be just like that, a service. So I noticed that your car is due for, a checkup. So, I took it to the dealership for you, or, I know that you're very tired after work, so I vacuumed the apartment for you, something like that.
It's more into, like you said, there's an overlap, but I see active service as giving time to your loved one, while
By doing
gift can imply
service.
giving money, you know?
Well, I mean, sometimes an act of service also requires money. Sometimes an act of service is like, oh, I noticed um, you don't have any more socks, and I bought you socks. So it's kind of an act of service because it's a gift that has more of a functional purpose. It's not
Mm,
like, oh, I got you a bouquet of roses because it's a romantic gesture.
okay.
It's more like, oh, this is like for you. This act is meant for you to function in the world optimally. That's how I see acts of service. Does that make sense?
Yeah, fair, fair. And then the
Um,
fifth one?
and then fourth one is touch. So some people really need physical connection. Maybe they need like kisses, caresses, hugs, hand holding. That's pretty obvious, that one. And then the last one is my love language, which is words of affirmation. So actually telling someone that you care about them, giving them compliments. I'm such a compliment whore. Like I love compliments. I will dig for
And
them forever. Like I will readily admit this to anyone
yeah.
because like my motto is flattery will get you everywhere. Because I love words. I'm a words person. So for me, having people tell me that they appreciate me, having them give me compliments, having them even send me like texts, notes, things like that, cards for my birthday. Like I don't want any gifts. I just want a written card. So that would be, yeah,
Can
words
you
of
put
affirmation.
your laptop in a stable place? It's just jumping.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah, sure.
You got excited. You got excited with the word of
I got
affirmation.
excited. I got excited. Yes.
But have you always knew that this is the thing that you like, or you had to actively think about it, about which love language you appreciate the most?
Well, so for me, I grew up in a family and in a culture where gifts were the primary mode through which, like, for example, my parents expressed their love and care. And it never really sat right with me. It wasn't ever something that I really responded to. Those weren't the things that made me feel loved, but growing up, I had no vocabulary for really expressing that. And it wasn't until I came across this book or this idea that I realized like, oh, I'm not weird. Like there's actually other people like me who don't respond to gifts and who don't, really express their love through gifts. And so it was something that I intrinsically felt inside of myself, but had no language to express. And so that's been my journey, is really coming to terms with the fact that the way that I give and receive love is normal. There are other people who feel the same way, and that this is something that's really individual. So, yeah, to answer your question, it's something I always felt, but it didn't have the vocabulary to express until I came across the nomenclature.
Like, do you think like love language should be communicated between partners? Like,
Absolutely. Oh my God, that's like my number one question on a date is like, what are your love languages? Like, 110% I would ask that.
but I don't know. Do you expect people to know what their love languages is?
I mean, I expect them to like. I mean, expect is a very strong word.
Right.
Expecting anything, I think, is a pitfall. But for me personally, if I'm personally interested in someone in a romantic way, I would hope that they have done the kind of reflection that I've done about the subject. Um, and I'm fully willing to explain the concept and to point them to resources so that they can get to know themselves better. But in my experience, having compatible love languages is one of the key ways that that really makes a relationship go. Like, really, I've been in situations where my love language is really different or is incompatible with somebody else's love language, and it's created a lot of tension and resentment over time. So that level of compatibility is something that I personally value a great deal.